So, um, in this, we have two blocks. So, as a part of block one, we are going to discussing about the bee colony maintenance, bee species and distribution, life history and health, and the beekeeping equipment, harvesting and processing of honey. And as a part of block two, we are going to discussing about the apiculture management, bee diseases, pests, and parasites, and what are the products of apiculture industry and its uses, and what are the economics involved in apiculture management. So, firstly, uh, what is apiculture? Apiculture means uh, nothing but beekeeping. It is maintenance of honeybee colonies that are commonly in man-made hives for the production of honey. Here and there, if we will see the presence of honeybees. So, honeybee, a beekeeper or the apiarist that keeps the bee in order to collect their honey and the other products of hives like bee wax, propolis, or the bee glue, and the pollen and the royal jelly to pollinate the crops or to produce the bees for the sale to other bee rates. So a place or the location where the bees are kept is called as apiary or bee yard. Usually we used to see the honeycombs here and there at even our homes also we can see. So all those the place uh, is considered like a apiary or bee yard in the scientific terminology. So man has been utilizing the benefits of the social insects that called honeybees, silkworms, and Laxperlacca, blackworms. And sometimes, at the cost of animals' life also, we are costing the life of animals for uh, man benefits. Uh, so, uses of honey that are already mentioned in the religious literature like Vedas, Puranas, Ramayana, and Mahabharata. And if you check any social platform, nowadays people are projecting their ideology and ideas in the social organizations. So honeybees are placing and majorly honey. Uh, it has the culinary usage and even beauty products. Even in beauty products also we are using the honey. And not only that, for eliminating the, for flushing the toxins from the body, also we are using the honey as a source. So, uh, the honeybees, which has been established before the existence of the human race, these insects are very good examples for showing the hard work with the coordination and cooperation as like ants, which live in a highly organized society in hive of wax combs. So many times, uh, many social influences used to take honeybee as an example for uh, disseminating their knowledge regarding like hard work and coordination and cooperation for showing the example to the human being. So a single honeybee that travels about double the distance of the circumference of the earth globe to collect and make 1 pound of honey. So this much hard work a honeybee can do. After the invention of the artificial hive by the Longstreth in the year of 1951, apiculture in the US and the Canada, Australia, and New Zealand that has achieved the success. In India, progressive farmers, cooperative societies, and tribal farms and their organizations that are involved in the apiculture industry, or sorry, apiculture, uh, and people all over the world, those were much interested in honey because of its medicinal and essential nutritive values. So there are three species that are found in the India. Those uh, are dorsata, and this is also called as the little honeybee, and the flore, and this is also called as the small honeybee, and indica, and another species that are found in the North Africa, Adamsoni, not only in India but also in Sri Lanka and Southeast Asian countries. You can see the giant honeybee, dorsata, and the little honeybee, flore, and small honeybee, indica. So when coming to the honeybee species and the distribution, with this knowledge, honeybees that are exhibit polymorphism and good division of labor. These insects are active throughout the year for collecting the pollen grain. But in spring season, at the time of flowering prepare, a strong colony with the honey, the beehives with the thousands of individuals that are observed hanging down from the branches of the trees and the ceilings of the houses. The workers that communicate the information for the location of the food sources throughout uh, the phenomena of connecting each other is called as waggle dance, and language of the bees. The eminent biologist, the Carl von Frisch, he mentioned that the rate of dance is directly proportional to the distance of the food. The societies or the colonies of the honeybees are perennial. So here you can see a bee that performs their round dance, that indicating the forage close are followed by the workers who will later leave for searching the food. If the bee, the wagtail dance means that indicates the direction and the distance of the food. So when coming to the distribution, bees and flowering plants have evolved during the period of 130 million years ago. That is increasingly depending upon the one another. Why? Because if there is no bees, there is no pollination. There are different sources of pollination for the plants, but still, bee also plays the major role in the pollination. So this is increasingly dependent upon one another. Today there are 20,000 to 30,000 species of bees, of which around 16,000 have been scientifically described by the scientists. The ancestors of the honeybees that emerged 40 million years ago with a modern type of open nesting species that appear in Southeast Asia around 10 million years ago. Subsequent species that nested inside the cavities that are appeared, eventually spreading throughout the tropical and temperate Asia and into Europe. These European bees that became isolated from the Asian species as the desert development in the Middle East and evolved into the species today, like Apis mellifera, with an indigenous the distribution stretching from the Arctic Circle to the South Africa. With the eastern limits of the Ural Mountains in north and central deserts of Afghanistan in the south. The cavity nesting bees is in Asia that are evolved in the Apis serena and several other cavity nest species like Apis, which are known today. Like in Asia, the diversity of the Apis species you can see, while in case of Europe and Africa that have just one species, whichever it is, there is a single species called Apis mellifera, upon which the world's industrialized beekeeping sector is based. So, as just we discussed, yes, we have 30,000 named species of bees around the globe. So, most are solitary. Each female bee makes her own nest, lays a single egg, and that provides the food for the single larvae that develop. A few species show a high level of social development and in living together in the permanently large colony that is headed by a single egg laying queen. So this queen is considered like a boss for the entire colony. So although many species of bees that collect the nectar that they convert to the honey and store as a food source for the longer period, it is only these larger colonies formed by social species that store appreciable quantity of the honey, a huge amount of the honey. These bees that are belongs to the genus Apis are known as honeybees, and others are the stingless bees that are belongs to the genera Trigona and Melipona, and the species that have been exploited by the man for thousands of years until recent countries for honey, because honey was the most common sweetening commodity. That is what definitely human being always exploit the thousands of honeybees. So honeybees most widely used for beekeeping are European races of Apis mellifera, a species of honeybee that is indigenous to the Africa and Middle East. Honeybees do not occur naturally in the America and Australia, New Zealand, and Pacific Islands. European bees that have been introduced to these regions during last 4 centuries. Over the last half century, European bees have been introduced to the most countries of the Asia. In industrialized countries, all beekeeping technology that has been developing or developed for use with the European honeybees, and most beekeeping and research literature that is related to this bee called Apis mellifera. So, what are the honeybee races? There are races. Yes, there are some subspecies. Those differentiation which is depending upon their morphometry and called the measurement of the body parts, such as the wing weeds, tongue, and hair length, and stinge, are on genetic analysis, which is rapidly increasing uh, the our understanding of the relationship between the various species, races of the honeybees. There is a great range of habits with different climates, like across the Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, where the Apis mellifera occurs naturally, has enabled the evolution of significant variation in the biology and behavior of this species of honeybee. In these different environments, there are many races of Apis mellifera. That is the race which is being utilized can have a considerable impact on the practical of beekeeping. So there will be a greatest variation within the races, and the selection and hybridization in between the races that results in considerable differences in honeybee types. These differences can significantly affect the suitability of a particular race to be productive in a given location. A race of bees that does well in one place that will not automatically do in another. So this has been dramatically shown by the rapid displacement of European-derived Apis mellifera honey bees that were used by the beekeepers in South and Central America before the arrival of the bees, which is from the Africa. The thing which first introduced to the Brazil in the year of 1956. So there is a greatest diversity of the honeybees. You can see, like small bee nesting with single exposed combs, Apis flora fabricus. We already discussed in the introductory part, and the Apis andreniformis, and the large species that are called Apis dorsata fabricus and Apis laboriosa, and middle-sized. The things which we already discussed in the introductory part. So here the dorsata species is also called as rock bee, which constructs huge homes in the forest and away from the cultivation. This is the largest bee, like Apis dorsata, largest bee that is measuring about 20 millimeter in length and known as giant honeybee. It is also named as sarang and gombara for its maximum amount of the honey yield in comparison to the other species. A single comb may yield 28 kg of honey. So the worker bee is very smart and active, which may pollinate 12,000 flowers per a day. So due to its ferocious and irritable quality, the special hive and migratory habit, it is very difficult to domesticate. So because of that reason, but it's a beautiful honeybee, which bears about a single comb that may yield 28 kg of the honey. Per day, it will pollinate about 12,000 flowers per day. So Apis dorsata and Apis laboriosa, these two build largest and single comb bee open. So the smallest one is Apis indica and Apis flora. So other species like Apis nigrosinta and Apis mulliensa. These are all the other species which is from Malaysia, and the species which is from China called Apis andreniformis, and nigrosinta. This is from Indonesia. So the stingless bees. Usually, honey bees are famous for its sting, but we have some species which is having the quality called stingless. So this is having the stingless bee cells. So bees with the necessary honey storing characteristics to be exploited by the human for their honey, which is belonging to the subfamily Meliponidae, that containing the several genera of stingless bees are to the single genus called Apis. The honey bees, the stingless bees are social bees. Those were social bees, and their social organization, the division of labor that between the workers and some of the physical structures of the adult bee, like pollen basket that are similar to the Apis genus of honeybee, whichever it is, their biology is completely different from the honeybees in some significant ways. For instance, the feeding of stingless bee larvae is very different from the way that honeybee larvae are fed. In stingless bees, the cells are mass and provisionized. That means that all the food the larvae will need for its development is place uh, the cell in one operation by the nurse bee. One of the workers that will then lay an egg that are known as a tropic egg in the cell. The queen will be attracted to the group of the workers, those who are laying eggs, and will come and eat the egg and some of the food provision before the laying her own egg into the cell. After this, the workers seal the cell so the larvae can mature. Then it can pupate. The queen will receive most of her nutrition by this way only. So the stingless bee cells are in a oval and round shape. Those were arranged in the orderly group or the place that may be formed into the honeycomb. They're insects that can be found in cavities in the trees or exposed nets that are attached to the tree branches. The other species like nest that are underground and may take the residence in part of termite nest. The nest is frequently divided into two parts. The broad chamber where the larvae are reached, and in some species a special area for storing the honey and pollen. The nest is made up of the waxy substance called cerumen that is collected from the resinous trees and covered in a tougher wax known as bitumen that is similar to the propolis used by the honeybees. So, in addition to this, Melipona, the honeybees which is belongs to the apis, the stingless honeybees that also provide honey, which are Melipona. This is the bee called damer bee. They are different from the other bees, whereby because they are very smaller in size and cannot flux the wax from their body for making hive, and they make comb by using materials like sand, resin, and their comb is very small, and every comb that contains about 100 to 150 grams of honey, their comb is easily identified. Their bee species plays an important role in pollination of the crop. Trigona, which is also a very small sized uh, honeybee species. They are available in southeast hilly area of the South Asia. They generally make the hive in the plant cracks, bamboo pole, wall, and in the hole. They are also very less honey productive species like Apis flora. So these bees are also domesticated but produced little amount of honey, and along with these we also have cave bees, which is called as Cape honeybee. The Apis mellifera, whose natural distribution, which is confined to the south tip of the Africa, which has the unique, highly complex body structure. The most significant feature of the Apis mellifera capensis is that the worker bees, those who are able to lay the diploid female eggs without any mating, taking any mating. So this biology is not known in any other honey bee species. This is the peculiar character of Apis mellifera. Without the mating, it will lay the eggs. So usually worker bees are only capable of laying the unfertilized eggs, haploid, not diploid one, haploid eggs, which means that they possess half the normal chromosome number, male eggs that develop into drones. However, this is the unique characteristics that also cause this race to be genetically incompatible with other African races. So here we have Apis dorsata, Apis indica, Apis flora, Apis serena, Apis mellifera. So in this, the Apis dorsata and serena both are furious. So it is very difficult to cultivate them, domesticate them. So we can't be able to domesticate. So the domesticated species are Apis indica and Apis mellifera, and some amount of the Apis serena also we can able to domesticate, though it is furious. Apis florea also can't be able to domesticate because it is the almost all are the wild bees only. So usually the method of extraction of honey is by squeezing only. But in case of Apis serena, because of its medium size, I guess, the centrifugal extraction we have to take. So when coming to the number of workers per the cell, the highest is Apis florea, 32, 36. The lowest is Apis mellifera, 70 to 19. So here the strength of colony is nearly 60,000 to 1 lakh case of Apis dorsata. Very less is Apis indica and Apis serena. So the biggest size honeybee is Apis dorsata. These distributed in the India in the plains and hills up to 16,000. This is highly migratory species. When coming to the Apis indica, this is, you can see these species in the Indian forest and the plain regions of the India that prefer to live in dark places, mainly in dark places. So when coming to the Apis florae, you can see these Indian species found in plains and highly migratory. Apis serena, found in all places of India. There are 3 subspecies that are found in the India. When coming to the Apis mellifera, this is the exotic species that is introduced in India in the year of 1962. Nearly 23 species are found all over the world. So depending upon the open nesting and cavity nesting, here Apis serena and Apis mellifera both are cavity nesting only. That builds many parallel cones in the cavities of the tree trunks and hollow places and rocks and holes. When coming to the Apis dorsata, Apis indica, and Apis florea, it will build their large comb after constructing the open nesting that is attached to the branches of the trees or rocks. So finally, the honeybees that are exhibited in polymorphism, that good division of labor, beehives with 50,000 of individuals that are observed hanging down from the branches of the trees. This is all about so when coming to the life history and the hive, so honeybees, as just we discussed, that are social insects, those who are live in colonies. The honeybee colony that is maintained by a single queen, hundreds of male drones, and 20,000 to 80,000 of female worker bees that you can see in the colony. Each honeybee colony that also consisting of developing eggs, larvae, and pupae. So yes, it will show the diversity of population for their survival. The colony always depending upon that. So here definitely it will show the specific task. So depending upon the task, as the each caste of the bee that performs special tasks. Thus, while queens are extremely powerful within their societies, they cannot establish new colonies without the help of the drones and the workers, the one who provides fertilization, food, and wax to construct the hive. So the life of the honeybee colony is perennial, means the 3 types of honeybees in a hive are queens. Those were egg producers. Queen, those were egg producers, the one which produce the egg. And the workers, those were non-reproducing females. And the drones, those were the male, the one which maintained the duty is to find out and mate with the queen. So honeybee larvae hatch from the egg in 3 to 4 days. They are then fed by worker bees and develop through several stages in the cells. Cells are capped by worker bees when the larvae pupates. Queens and drones are larger than the workers, so that requires the larger cells to develop. A colony may typically consisting of the 10,000s of individuals. When coming to the life history of the honeybee, all the members of the honeybee colony that undergo a complete metamorphosis, passing through the 4 stages like egg, larvae, pupa, and adult stage. The first stage is the egg. A honeybee begins their life as an egg. The bee eggs that are developed in the ovarioles or the small tubes that make up the 2 ovaries of a queen. The egg, which is nourished and grows as it moves down into that tube, when it is completely formed, it reaches the end of the ovariole, the cell, then it moves through the oviducts into the vagina. So the sex of the new bee is normally that is determined by the egg passes through the vagina. So a lifetime supply of the sperm, about 5 million to the 6 million of sperm is stored by the each queen in the spermatheca. So a little globular sac that is attached to the vagina, the queen that controls the releasing of the sperm with the area called sperm pump. So if a egg is fertilized, it is developed into a female bee. But if it is not fertilized, a male bee it is nothing but a male bee. So the result is that the male bees have only one set of chromosomes called haploid that is acquired from the queen. The queen bee that is attached each egg to the base of the empty cell in the combs that have been cleaned by workers. So the honeybee egg is smooth, white, sausage type shape, and the object about 1.5 ml in the length. So during the first day, the egg nucleus that is divided if the egg is unfertilized. So if the egg is fertilized, the fusion nucleus sorry, or the zygote that is divided, it is not until the 3rd day that the embryo which is formed, means the embryo which is containing with the head and the body set. So that can be seen in the egg. So now in the 3rd day, what we have seen in the body means in the embryo form means the honeybee with the head and body segment. So the head is presented at the larger in size and unattached end, and the back dorsum on in the curved concave side. So the next stage after the egg is larval stage. So the first sign of the hatching occurs when an egg is 72 to 84 hours old. So the muscular contractions by the embryo cause a gentle waving motion that apparently results in the tiny hole that being torn in the outer membrane called chorion. So the fluid form within the egg soon emerges and covers the external surface. The embryo with the tail that attached to the base of the cell that continues to move until about the head also touches the base, and an arc is formed. In this stage, that stage is called as wicket stage. The chorion evidently is dissolved. The larvae that seizes itself over the against the bottom of the cell into the familiar C-shaped position. So the honeybee larvae that are fed a nutritious substance called royal jelly that is secreted by the brood food glands called hypopharyngeal glands of young workers. So here young workers plays the major role for producing the royal jelly. During the first 24 hours, the worker larvae are fed the lavish amount of the royal jelly by the older nurse bees. During the second 24 hours, means 48 hours, they get very little additional food, and thereafter are carried by the nurse bees of all ages. So the pollen and the honey are represented in the food of older worker larvae. These helpless creatures have voracious appetite, consuming 1300 meals a day. So the nurse bees first feed the larvae royal jelly, and then later they wean to a mixture of honey and pollen, sometimes that is referred to like bee bread. Within just 5 days, they are 1570 times larger than their original size. At this time, the worker bees seal the larvae in the cell with a porous cap of tan beeswax. Once sealed in the larvae spin a cocoon around their bodies. So honeybee that use two systems of feeding larvae. One is young larvae are feed amounts excessive to their needs, and older larvae that are provided small quantities of the food as depending upon their need. It is also been estimated that 110,000 visits that are made to a single bee during its egg and larvae stages, and 3,500 of uh, during the last 24 hours. A female larvae that fed continuously on lavish amounts of the royal jelly and provided a large peanut-shaped cell that become a queen. Another larvae give a mixture of honey and pollen during the latter half of its life, its larval life, and kept in a worker cell becomes a worker. The process that produces a complete expression of sexual characteristics in the queen has not been determined. However, it is considered to be caused by differences in both the quality and quantity of the larval food that is provided. Drone larvae that grow larger than either workers or queens and therefore that requires more food. The food given to young drone, the larvae is nearly devoid of pollen that looks in milky white, while that given to the old drone larvae is a yellow drone and contains the considerable amount of the pollen. The food which is given to the older drone larvae, which is higher in the pollen content, that given older workers larvae, thus both the quality and the quantitative differences distinguish the larval food given queen, worker, and drone. So during the developing stages, the developing honeybee larvae, which is completely helpless creature. Why? Because the major principal function is of the developing honeybee is eating only. So both the Malphizian tubes means analogues to the human kidneys. Okay, and the midgut are the shut off from the intestine until a larvae is nearly met. 1 second. Sorry for the technical glitch. So, as just we discussed, yes, developing honeybee larvae are helpless creature. So, the principal function of the larvae is eating only. So, both of the Malphizian tubules and their midgut are shut off from the intestine until the larvae is nearly mature. So in this is why the body waste are stored internally, and the food that is surrounding each larvae is protected from the fecal contamination. So the feces are expelled and pushed down to the bottom of the cell about the time the cocoon is made and after the larvae has finished their eating process. So all the cast of honeybees that mount about every 24 hours during the first 4 days of the larval stage or larval life. So when the abdison or the moulting that are occurred, the skin which is split over the head and the slips of the posture, that is end of the larvae. So this process normally takes place less than 30 minutes. So each new larvae means we called this larval stage as the instar. So the first instar only slightly larger than the previous one, but it grows very rapidly. The fifth larval instar that gains about 40% of the total matured larval weight during 8 and 9 days. So by the end of the 8th day, after the egg was laid, the cell that contains the worker larvae, which is capped. So during the 9th day, the larva that spins a cocoon, which which is using as a silk form from a special gland and in head. So on the 10th day, the larva that stretches out on its on its back with its head towards the cell, which is opened and becomes quiescent inside in the cocoon. So this is the last stage of the larval stage. The next stage is pupa stage. So this stage, the stage which is after the 10th day, is called as pre-pupa stage. So the fifth mold which occur during the 11th day, that reveals the pupa from white in color and which is completely motionless, and the color that develops gradually first in eyes in the 13th day, then in the abdomen 15th day, legs in 16th day, wings in 18th day, and finally antenna in the 20th day. So this is all like open-celled egg and developing pupa. So the final stage is adult stage. Throughout this stage, the pupa is encased in a thin outer skin, which is shed in a sixth and final molt on the day of 20th day. Thus, here you can see the development of legs, wings, and mouth parts, and that are freed, and the pupa that becomes like a adult, which soon begin to chew their food its way out of the cell. Because the honeybee that hatches into the larvae, which becomes first pupa and then imago, means adult. That bees that are said to have a complete metamorphism or metamorphosis. The length of each stage, each egg stage after the 3rd day is the same for all 3 castes. But the larvae and the pupa, larval stage and the pupal stage, are the shortest stage for the queen and the longest stage for the drone. So as with the most biological development, the duration that may vary in between the individuals. So here you can see the one should be considered as a close approximations. For example, hatching occurs between 72 to 84 hours. The workers may emerge as earlier as 19 days or as late as 20 through 23 days after the egg was laid. As just we discussed, there are 3 castes called workers, queen, and drone. Okay, there will be a different types of stages called egg stage. Gorging stage is nothing but pupal stage, and pre-pupa stage, pupa stage, and adult stage called imago. Okay, in these stages, queen that is presented as a egg in the egg stage. In the hatching, you can see the sealing in the molds of queen, and in workers, you can't see the sealing. So the sealing process you can see in the workers after the before the pre-pupa stage. So in case of drones, you can see the sealing at pre-pupa stage. So finally, a swarming. When all the individuals are emerged, the hive that becomes overpopulated and results in the swarm. Means the honeybee larvae, the hive in the large group to settle somewhere else where they construct new hive for their life. So swarming, which is usually referred to as the first swarming, normally occurs in the late spring season or in the early summer season. So the swarming which occurs for the purpose of nuptial flight is called uh, as second swarming. So in the preparation to the first swarm, the workers bees that leave the hive temporarily and construct a new hive at a new and different place. After the completion of the hive working or hive worker bees come back to the old hive, then one one fine morning, the old queen along with the old workers bees leave the hive to settle in the new hive. So in the new hive, queen against start laying eggs. In the old hive, young workers, new queen still in the cells and drones are left out. The queen who usually emerges first from the cells become the real queen of the old colony. Then the young queen that utters piping sound means buzz sound. B is just like that. Okay, such sound that indicates it is in completely anger and jealous because she stings to death to all her young sisters, which are to emerge, which have the emerged. So absconding means the complete colony that leaves the hive due to unfavorable conditions for their life. If they notice that there will be a danger for their life, they will abscond. So such means the destruction of the comb by termites or the ants or bats mouths. All those are considered like unfavorable condition. Not only that, but also the scarcity of nectar that are producing flowers around the hive. All those were like unfavorable conditions. If such unfavorable conditions appears, they feel like there is a dangerous for their life. That is what they abscond completely. So super sedure. So here sometimes it might happen that the mother queen if the mother queen is unexpectedly dies. In that condition, its lays if it is already laid the eggs, the egg laying capacity is completely decreased because of or any unknown reasons. If the mother queen's health is damaged in certain conditions. In that condition, the young and vigorous queen, she will take the task, the charge of the old queen position. Such conditions is called as super sedure. So it is called as super sedure. So as just we discussed, this is all about the life stages of the honeybee. And yes, we already discussed about how many molds are there in the honeybee caste. And yes, we have drones, workers, and queen bee. And how honeybee behaves when the queen bee is sacrificed their life in any unfavorable condition. And how unfavorable conditions are maintained by the honeybees. So with this, I'm here today ending my class. So thanking you all. I'm signing off.